Hi there, it's Polly here. Yay, ooh, the sherry. So, I want to cover something that comes from the absolute genesis of role-playing games. The common law will tell you that somehow Dungeons and Dragons sprung forth fully armed from the forehead of Gary Gygax and co. No, actually, there was a progression. If you look at the wargaming literature from people like Charles Grant and Donald Featherstone and so on in the 60s, they published some great little books on how to do wargames campaigns. Now, 60s miniatures gaming often had some interesting little conceits, and part of them pretty consistently was you'd have a general figure on the board that represents the actual player. So part of that was that you can only respond to things that that general figure could see, things that are in its line of sight and so on. If the general can't see it, then it can't react to it. So a message has to be sent from those guys on the other side of the hill that they're in trouble and need reinforcements. And an umpire would tell you, oh, okay, messengers move this many inches a turn. It'll take 2 turns for that news to arrive. Meanwhile, they'll act however they can to support themselves. Fantastic. People made quite elaborate figures and so on. In the old purple primers, you'd get all sorts of advice on elaborating these things. And those war games campaign books often had kind of the genesis of role-playing in them, where these general characters and leaders of the nations and imaginations that were being used in these campaigns start to have interaction beyond simply being a thing that appears on the tabletop, that gives you a bonus if you're attached to a unit, etc. They could do things, they could do skullduggery, they could spy, they could arrange marriages. So this was a building tradition. So, look, this guy, David Wesley, who was a Napoleonic gamer, he had an idea, and that's what we're reviewing here. It's called Braunstein. Braunsteining was the original kind of pure role-playing game. So what this gentleman did was he decided to step away from miniatures battles, in a pause between their normal miniature wars, and let's do a game where everyone essentially plays a single character. And this was set in this imaginary town of Braunstein. Yes, Braunstein on the Braunwasser. And there's a whole history for Braunstein. It was the original Baron of Braunstein was sent there by Charlemagne to control the brown waters of the Braunwasser. And there's a whole history of this thing. But the original ones were a thing where everyone was given a character, and that character had victory conditions, aims and goals written down that it had to achieve. And there was a light rule structure that kind of allowed them to move, be active, interact, fight, and so on. And apparently David wasn't that keen on the results initially. He thought it was a bit chaotic. But the players were absolutely afire. They loved this. Are you running another Braunstein next week? So it became their thing. Gary Gygax in a nearby club was told this was happening. He went and played some Braunsteins and then decided to roll this over with a more complex rule structure aimed at doing something kind of based on chainmail rules, from whence we get D&D. However, Braunstein is kind of the great unsung start of this all. Someone has brought out on drivethrurpg.com a Braunstein booklet. It's Barons of Braunstein, and it's there as a PDF. So Braunstein's back, and you can play it in all its original glory. It's thoroughly playable. It's fantastic work. So, thing one, the PDF has been produced in a slightly hazy crap typewriter font, so it really does look like someone typed this out in about 1971 and then Gestantner pressed it. So yeah, really nice little bit of production value there. I do love it. But it's a really nice little game. Barons of Braunstein has been set up essentially for dungeoneering and adventure. We have the town of Braunstein, its history and so on laid out, if you want, in appendices in the back, leading right up to the idea that People then went forth, from the Renaissance onwards, explorers from Braunstein went forth and they founded other towns of Braunstein. So the legend of Braunstein continues in the New World and in Africa and, these sorts of things. But Barons of Braunstein has a lot of historical detail, allowing you to set a Braunstein style game in a historical period of your choice. It could be, they're doing Dark Ages through Middle Ages for this. So they're saying fall of the Roman Empire. Here is all the information you need to run something in that setting. Dark Ages, Viking Ages, early medieval, high medieval, proto-Renaissance. These are the things that you need to know. Here's where you get more information. At its core, a really interesting, simple game. So you generate a character. Now, that character it's largely you telling the umpire about your character. You're given a very limited number of words to write down some important facts about your character, some background to communicate to the umpire. So if you've been told that you can be, it's a Viking setting, you can be this, right? So Olaf was actually a Saxon child raised by Viking parents who found him. He does not know who his original parents were. It is a mystery, right? So you can do that. The scenario may give you some extra victory conditions, aims, and goals if you want, so you can put an extra bit in that's your spin on that. But the characteristics are actually fairly simple. You decide whether you're going to be literate or illiterate in a setting where there is some literacy, like the Roman one or some of the medieval ones. If you are literate, fine, then you have access to books and records and so on, which, since this is a role-playing thing and often involves skullduggery or private eye kind of stuff, it can be very important. If you are not literate, you are slightly luckier. They say, you come from more peasanty kind of stock, and you've had to rely on your own resources and so on rather than ones in books. Okay, fantastic. There are some simple skills and so on that you can generate for yourself, which are just bonuses that you gain under different circumstances. But one of the core characteristics is luck. That's the main thing that you generate for your character. How much luck do you have? The umpire will essentially give you a set bound, and you'll add to it if you're illiterate, etc. Now, as you encounter things in the game, you can spend luck to have things go your way. So if, for instance, you are doing a private eye thing and you are trying to search an area for a remote clue, or if you're circulating in the court and trying to listen for rumours, or see if the evil lady somehow is passing messages or something, you can expend luck to kind of get the clue. But luck is also burned to make avoidance of lethal situations. So traps and so on. Essentially, if you go over a trap, you die. If it's a lethal trap, or the trap operates and whatever the trap's supposed to do happens to you. But you can expend luck to make sure that it doesn't happen. You jerk back at the last instance from the pit trap, you dodge the arrows firing out of the walls. So it's a resource that you manage to get through the game. Now, combat, when you are hit by weapons, they're only interested in solid strikes. If you are hit by a lethal weapon, it kills you. Full stop. That's what lethal in the word means. However, you can expend luck to make sure that it does not. It glances off, it misses you, or, tis but a scratch. All tasks are done as a 2d6 roll. If you've got little bonuses, it'll add like 1 or 2 points to the roll. If you're doing combat, there is an option for a more detailed combat system, which gives you basically stronger hits depending on how well you make the roll. And there are bonuses and so on, and penalties for whether the target has shields and these sorts of things. And that gives you a strength of the wound delivered, and you have to expend that level of luck to basically negate that blow. So a big two-handed axe can do bad things to you. So, nice. Armor has like an inherent kind of luck in it, which is only used for turning weapon blows. So you basically shed attacks if you're wearing your chainmail halberd or whatever by burning the 3 or 4 points of luck that are inherent in the armor. Now, your personal luck, it will regenerate if you like, if you go to bed and have a nice sleepy bobo and rest. So it's regenerating resource. But during the course of adventure time, you have to be careful with luck. If you've spent too much of it following clues, meeting the lucky guy at the tavern that you needed for the vital bit of information, escaping notice from the guards to try and sneak into a place, then you're burning a resource you might need if someone's trying to stab you. So yeah, it's a nice, easy, simple, fun system. So look, this is a splendid piece of work. It's a full kind of very gentle, easy character system. It's more about, like I said, telling a little bit of your character story than counting up dozens and dozens of bonuses. The umpires are encouraged to come up with cool scenarios. Barons of Braunstein is set up so that you will be doing dungeoneering and traditional D&D style adventures, but using this 2d6 based luck resource managing system from original Braunstein. However, it rolls over to give you a full insight into what original Braunsteining was, running full-on scenarios, running whodunits, running court skullduggery, and shows you how to use this for all of that, as well as exploring out the new world, exploring ancient temples in the Amazon, these sorts of things. It's all in there. There's also quite extensive battle and siege rules added there, in case you are essentially Braunsteining something within a broader military sense. So, Braunstein is under siege, and are you going to betray the Baron and try and open the gates and let these guys in, or are you trying to find the evil spies that are trying to somehow blow up the magazine and let the enemy in, or no, etc. So you can do all this sort of thing. So look, it's a beautiful little game. It really is. It's an unsung hero of the role-playing genre. It is the great kind of leap forward. This is where someone looked and said, let's move from battle games on a table using dozens to hundreds of figures, and let's concentrate on the actions of individuals only. Everyone will be running characters, and it's more about what you say you do and how you do it than rolling a bunch of dice and counting up stats. So this is it. This is the start of role-playing right here, Braunstein. The fact that they've brought out Barons of Braunstein, I think that's a wonderful act of love. If you're a role-playing enthusiast, if you're interested in the history of role-playing games, this is absolutely a must. You have to get this and have a look. The game is incredibly playable. It's riotous good fun. You can see why this took over things. It's got kind of two different sort of flavors in it. You can play it very, very role-play, or they've got that more kind of wargamey hook to it if you want to use it as an adjunct to battle games, siege games, and so on. So it still shows that wonderful ability to be on the cusp of both and to embrace both. Braunstein and Barons of Braunstein. Take a look. It really is a lost treasure of the role-playing and gaming genres. It's just a beautiful thing to see. So anyway, go out and get it. If you like the reviews, by all means, subscribe and find me on Patreon, because I can only get hold of these rules because other people help me. Anyway, I shall see you in the lists. Cheers.